Welcome to another episode of CrossTalk. My name is Kevin Patio. I will be your host for this segment. What is CrossTalk? Well, the idea of this is to have conversations with the folks in and around the two communities that we serve, both Whitman and Hanson. A little backstory on the conversation we're about to have. It was something we were scheduled to have with Kowalski, who is the chair of the select board here in Whitman. And some ideas kind of came about as to maybe adding a little bit more ingredients. So joining this, other than Kowalski, select board chair, is we have Mr. Richard Rosen, who is not only a once town elected official, right? You were a member of the select board.
Former chairman of
yes. Business owner, and lifelong resident of Whitman.
Third generation, we might add.
And your daughter would be the fourth.
And my grandson will be the fifth.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Again, off camera, we had the conversation talking to Carl. Anytime there's been a town meeting, he lets folks know that he has been here for a long time, but not long enough to be a townie.
No. And I'll always drop that a great uncle of mine was the fire chief of Whitman back in the 20s, which sometimes gets me into trouble with firemen. But other than that, that's something that I remember from when I was a kid. He lived in the house that's on the corner of South Avenue and Dyer Avenue. His name was Bert Dyer, Uncle Bert. And I would visit his house when I was a little kid. So there's that connection. But I'm not a townie. No. Can never be a townie.
I was on the board when the Dyer school burnt down.
Okay. There's a lot of history here.
Long time
Dyer,
ago.
yeah.
A lot of history.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
So the thought is we got a lot of conversations to have with both Carl and with Richard. We'll start with Carl and weave our way here. The idea of having you on, Carl, just kind of do like a 50,000-foot view of, what's been like in the community. Yeah, what's been going on here in Whitman since the start of the year, even at the start of the fiscal year, if you really want to.
Well, we're spending money like we have it. We have a number of things going on, as you know. We have a middle school that's going to be built at some point. We have there's a school at the Votech that's going to be built at some point. We're building finally something for the DPW. We have a fire chief who would like a new station. There are a lot of claims upon the town for things that we really do need to have. We need to have a school system that we can be proud of, et cetera. However, times are tight. Times are tough, so it's going to be a while to slog through. Luckily, on the Board of Selectmen, we have a member by the name of Sean Kane, who is really committed to doing his homework and to providing the impetus to have people from the schools specifically and the town speaking together as early as we possibly can during the fiscal year to plan how to handle it. It doesn't always work out, but his spirit is there. His spirit is good, and I've been really happy with that.
I will say that not too long ago, Mr. Rosen and I actually, from time to time, do radio segments, and I want to say maybe about 5-6 weeks ago, we actually talked a little bit about. We look at tough fiscal times during the time that you were the chairman of the board, or on that board, was when Prop 2.5 was voted in.
It was just after Proposition 2.5 when I think our budget was $16 million, and we had literally had to cut $1 million off the budget, which, and we lost federal revenue sharing under Reagan. But we then proceeded to build a sewer system in this town at 95% federal funding. Way ahead of schedule. We built a new senior center. We did a lot of stuff. We got a lot done, but we had a lot of federal help. But nowadays, it's much more difficult for these guys to have to function. And there is no money. There wasn't really any money back then, but it wasn't a total regionalization back then. Kyle was on the school committee.
That's right.
Yes, it was.
Kyle was on the school committee.
And we couldn't stand the selectmen.
Yeah, and we didn't like the school committee. But we got it done.
But we both had trouble with the finance committee, right? No.
There was a woman on the finance committee who went to the press, because back in those days we actually had newspapers that had reporters that came to our meetings, and she went to the press, and I was chairman at the time, and said that the relationship between the selectmen and the finance committee is so cold that you could build an ice wall in the hallway. So the reporter said, "What do you think?" I said, "She's 100% right, and I'm going to keep it that way." So it was tough times. We had tough times back in those days.
But you got through it, and
we did.
And the community always finds a way to come together.
We have. That's true. A couple of years ago, before we came up with the strategic plan that we are now under, we had a survey of the town, and you survey the townspeople, and schools, police, fire. They love them. Okay, they do good work. Okay, however, they have trouble paying for it. You know, they want to have the great school system. They want the police to serve them. They want the fire to be there when they need them. However, they also don't want to pay taxes. Our taxes are low. If you compare it to the surrounding towns, they're low, but they've been kept low. I don't know how much longer that can happen. I think eventually there's going to have to be some kind of an override.
What I find interesting is that you mentioned about the DPW building. How many attempts were made before the residents finally said, yes, now is the time?
Well, if you drive by it, yeah.
You know, I look at it as we always, we have the highest tax rate. We don't have the highest tax rate. We don't have the highest taxes.
Not even
When you
close.
look at what a house is, the house that somebody currently lives in Whitman, go compare it to a house in Abington and see what the tax rate is. It's insane. However, we do have a shock coming up, the taxpayers of Whitman, when the first bills come in for the new middle school. But back to the DPW, all I can say is it's about time that they got a new DPW.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, at the end of the day, compared to the relative cost of building, it's not that much money compared to, I mean, look at the public safety building in Brockton is almost $50 million over budget.
You know, that's another show in itself.
They've got some issues, but anyway,
a lot of financial
our taxes aren't terrible, but our tax bills are going to go up.
Let's, talk about...
That was fun to talk about.
It was.
Yeah.
This is a wonderful town, and knowing that it has a lot to celebrate. The community knows how to come together. Big celebration, 150th anniversary of the town of Whitman. And my understanding is there's a little planning going on for a celebration.
I think it's actually called the
Sesquicentennial?
Yeah, Sesquicentennial, 150th anniversary. So 25 years ago, I was asked by some selectmen to spearhead the events for the 125th, and we did. And we had several great celebrations that went on for a few months. I was asked again now if I would spearhead the 150th, and I agreed. And I went back and found some of the old few townies, and I found some of the people that were on the committee with me 25 years ago. And we've had a couple of meetings, and we have a number of events planned. I intend to go before the Board of Selectmen in the next month or so and list the events. But the events will probably start on April 5th, 2025, and they'll end around the end of June, because it's not something you can do for many months. People lose interest, people go away on vacation, kids are out of school. So we're going to try to jam pack a lot of things into a couple of months. We have the Historical Commission involved. There will be other groups involved. We intend to start it again. We did a formal kickoff dinner 25 years ago. We did it at the building out back of Ritter's back then, and it was fairly inexpensive, and we had a big band, and it was great. We had 320 people. When you try to do that same event now, you couldn't afford it because it'd be like a wedding. So we actually talked about it for a while, and we're gonna kick the event off at the Cardinal Spellman Center. There won't be a band because people don't dance anymore, and nobody wants to see a bunch of old people out there dancing. So it will be a night of, it will be a somewhat formal evening, and there'll be a lot of historical things brought up that night, and I think we'll have a really good crowd. And we're going to end it at the end of June with what I hope will be the largest parade that Whitman's ever seen.
I think the thing that's fantastic and is that Whitman always knows how to celebrate, whether it being the community itself or holidays. I've had conversations with both of you
And
about.
basically, it's because of this guy that
You mean
happens.
the Winterfest that kept going?
You know,
Yeah.
we haven't done it in
This
10
town
years.
owes Richie a ton.
We
Who would have
did.
thought to drop a chocolate chip cookie on New Year's Eve?
They drop. I mean, they drop fish down the Cape.
It only lasted twice.
Twice, and
that was a disappointment.
Well,
You know why? Because there wasn't a big glass of milk for it to go with.
no, because well, we tried to do that with Hood too, because the second time it was about 20 below zero, and everybody said,
That's right, that's right.
We're not doing this again." You bring up Winterfest. I'm going to get trashed on Facebook again, which is somewhat standard policy. We only did it for 20 years. It was a one-day event, but during that same 20 years, we built a playground, the playground in the park. We did that. We did a lot of things, but 20 years is a long time to do a one-day event. And then we did follow it up with the dropping of the Tall House cookie. We did a lot of stuff in those years, a lot of things, and we had a lot of fun, and it was wonderful for the community. Unfortunately, nobody picked it up when we stopped. I tried to get some people to do it, but it was hard. I mean, I was raising money to pay for the event. The town didn't pay for the event. We did it with private funding. And my whole idea and thought was we didn't want people to come out and have to pay to do anything at any event. I mean, we took kids' pictures with Santa for free.
Unheard of.
That's a lot of money when you go down to, the mall or whatever. We did, everything was free. And it was hard. I mean, we would sacrifice a week every summer doing a carnival to raise the funds to pay for it. But I did have some calls, and they asked when it was over if I would help them, and I'm like, sure. You get 12 people that are willing to work 8 or 10 months a year that can raise $14,000, and today it would be much more. And I'd be more than happy to sit with all of you, but I'm not going to sit with one person at a time and try to explain how to do it. It was a lot of work.
But maybe Whitman now started something, a Whitman Day. That's kind of they're trying to kickstart a new tradition. I mean, how important is it to celebrate being a community, Carl?
Oh, it's very, very important. Yeah, I was lucky. I grew up in Weymouth. My aunt likes to say that she was the first baby born at South Shore Hospital. Whether that was true or not, I have no idea. But my roots are in Weymouth. Whitman reminded me a lot of Weymouth when I moved to Whitman. It was Whitman is Weymouth is a large community, but it really has 4 different communities in it, and Whitman was like one of them. The park is
Everybody loves that park.
incredible. The people that I've been working with here for the last 50 years or so have been kind. They've been open. Transparent, is that a word we want to use? I don't know if we want to use that word. No, we don't want to use that word. No. But it's been a great place to raise the kids. It's just it's a giving community.
Let's talk about local business and the importance of local business. Because I'm leading somewhere here.
No, that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, Whitman became really alive once McGuiggan started. Once those 2 restaurants were going, I mean, it gave the downtown a flair and a spirit that it's had. If I were to think of the important businesses in Whitman that strike a bell with me, one is Duval's. Okay, the drugstore. I can remember. Sure. They're counted there when
Peaceful Meadows.
Yeah, Peaceful Meadows, Menards.
Yep.
Jubert's.
Yep.
Those are important places. I can't say enough about Duval's. I can remember once when my daughter was little and she needed some medicine in the middle of the night, and they opened a place to get it. I mean, I go to the local pharmacy, not to one of the chain pharmacies, all the time. And McGuiggan's is a go-to place for me. Of course, it was named after.
This is a good story.
It was named after one of my mother's best friends in Weymouth. They grew up together. They worked together at the phone company, right?
My mother-in-law.
Yeah.
Helen McGuiggan.
I mean, think about that for a minute. Think about that, about coincidences.
My wife's maiden name is McGuiggan. That's where the name came from.
Yeah.
we've had the conversation before, but it's been years since anybody's probably heard the story. I remember when you had initially had said, and I'm sure Carl was probably, you know, when you first talked about converting the building, that was in the center of town. Was it where the haircuts? What was the use of it previously?
So, prior to me, it was like a dollar store. Mm-hmm. Prior to that, it was Whitman Carpet. Okay. Joe Speduzoli had been there for a long time. Prior to that, when I was a kid, it was like a hardware store. It goes back just real quick. All those places that you just mentioned,
yeah,
they all started in 1946, not Peaceful Meadows.
Oh, you're kidding?
No, Duval's, Jubert's, Menards, 46, 47. My father bought Temple Street Garage, all the same time. But anyway,
I mentioned Peaceful Meadows because we know
I was 2 years older.
I mentioned Peaceful Meadows, which is now Hornstra Farms, because it was sold, and there was a lot of hand wringing. Oh God, oh! But John Hornstra comes in, owns his own ice cream store in Norwell, decides that he's going to come in and expand his business. So, folks who are tuned in at home, just put a little dog ear your page for this part of the conversation. Because the reason we mention this is because you made an announcement recently in regards to not only McGuiggan's Pub, but also the Patio, both which are, I told Richie this before, me and my missus go out to a lot of different places, probably got about 50, 55 that we go to, those two restaurants, not because he's here and because we're friends, top three.
Yeah.
For me.
Easily. The genius behind opening up the Patio was what gets me. Taking a parking lot and making it into that beautiful place. Yep. Just what an idea that was.
Which, by the way, when I opened the pub, will be 15 years in December.
Right.
People didn't give me 15 days. And then when I opened the Patio, which was 5 years ago, people really didn't give me 5 minutes and didn't think we'd survive. And I actually designed, until I hired an architect, I designed the Patio on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
15 years is a long time in the restaurant business, especially when you're a new restaurant. They don't expect that you're going to last that long. But
and let's not forget, he also made it through a pandemic where we saw the pandemic wiped out, a large percentage of business eateries that had been around for years that could not sustain.
One of the things, I'm proud of a lot of things that we've done in Whitman with those restaurants. I believe we really revitalized Whitman Center. But I digress. We were open during the pandemic, the pub. We stayed open, and all we did was takeout. And I'm proud that we kept 13 people on payroll the whole pandemic. The Patio, which had just recently opened, had to close. And I remember the night that the governor was on TV was March 16th, because the next day was St. Patrick's Day. And we had a ton of corned beef in the walk-in getting ready for the next day. We ended up selling some of it and gave the rest of it to the seniors. But it's been a good run. I mean, when I opened that pub, I would go out every night and I would drive through the center seeing what the traffic pattern was. Not that I was ever going to see anything different, because it's been the same forever. And back then, there were no cars parked from School Street to Tedeschi's, the whole length of Washington Street at night. And I proved the point again the other night, because if you now go through Whitman Center on a Monday night at 7 o'clock, it's going to be the same way it had been forever, every night, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, with no cars in the center.
Right.
Now, on a Tuesday through Sunday, you go through the center, and there's a lot of cars. And it excites me that all those cars are in one of our restaurants, and it has become a destination spot. Whitman, downtown Whitman. I can go into the pub at any given night, and I'll know 85% of the people. I can go in the Patio, and I literally don't know almost anybody in the place.
You're right. Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. And the Patio is a very diverse restaurant, which also makes me very proud. But it's been fun. It's been tough.
You say you like the pub more so. What is it about the pub that you've liked?
It's an Irish pub.
What's there not to like?
It's an Irish pub. It's just the atmosphere. I guess I'm used to the atmosphere, and I like it a lot. I really do. and they make a terrific martini.
You don't drink those.
No, I don't. That's why I don't drink. My wife will kill me now. You didn't say that, did you?
Edit this.
I like the Patio myself. I like both, and I did more than once. I've said to you in regards, after church we would go there for brunch, and I'll throw myself under the bus. I'd like to have a Bloody Mary and
nice drink.
a nice. But let's not forget, it came highly regarded through the Phantom Gourmet, who also visited your establishment. Doesn't necessarily visit everybody's establishment.
Yeah. No.
I mean, your restaurants have received a lot of accolades, whether it was for the food or events that you were holding outside.
So a couple of other things, if I have time.
Yeah.
We had a road race that I started, the McGuiggan's Pub 5K, and we raised, during the course of the parade, $75,000, which is a lot of money for a little pub in a small town. We raised $75,000, and we have donated every single penny, and half of it went to the Whitman Food Pantry. The other half has gone to numerous.
The One Fund. Did you do the One Fund one time?
We gave a lot of money to the One Fund. We gave money to everybody. I thought that was appropriate that year to the One Fund. But my daughter Danielle really is the one that has run both restaurants. She just had a baby a few weeks ago. She did the post. She wrote the post. She's also a good writer like yourself. That announced our closing. It was very tricky to be able to do that and do it right. Before everybody started with the rumors about what was going to happen. I mean, it was on our terms.
How tough was it to decide? Again, let's not forget. I mean, you have been a successful businessman prior to opening these restaurants. You didn't have to, but it was something a path that you had sought.
I've made a huge investment in Whitman Center over the years.
Obviously,
with a number of places. It's emotional. I mean, when I made a speech the other night to the staff announcing it because none of them knew it, and people started crying. So did I. When I was talking, people's jaws were dropping. I made it a point with the new buyers that we protected the employees. Of course, we have 70 employees. That's a lot of people. They don't happen to have 70 people coming along, so the staff is going to stay the same. The other thing that I thought was extremely important, and I talked it over with the buyers, was the gift cards. Because you see all these restaurants that close, and people go crazy because they've lost their money with gift cards. The gift cards at either one of our establishments will be accepted for a year. I'm paying for them. You have a gift card, you can use it when I'm gone. You can still use that gift card, and it will be honored. So that was important to us. There's been a lot of things that we wanted to do right, and I wanted to do on my terms. I saw there was that post that went out the other night, went out at 8:30 at night. My phone started blowing up at 8:37.
Yeah, I was one of those people.
Yeah. And it hasn't stopped.
So what?
It was like, you're going to do what? It's been pretty amazing, and it was on both of our, I guess Facebook. I'm not on Facebook. Instagram and Pub and Patio and all. There was over 200 comments, and there weren't any bad ones. And it was very rewarding when you saw that people actually acknowledged what we've done for Whitman and what we've done for it's very rewarding.
Carl, when you look at Menards, they decided to close their doors after many years. How many decades?
1946 is when they started. I mean, and Mr. Menard has passed years ago, and David is, we're not kids anymore. No. David was on my Winterfest committee. We've been friends our whole life. A townie, by the way.
David's a good guy.
And now he's on the 150th. But no, I mean, how many generations in Duval's now? I remember the original John Duval, which is the great-grandfather of the kids that are running it now.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
but as a town official, again, Menards, they closed their doors. Peaceful Meadows, of course, there was, as I said, kids at home. You remember, we're going to circle back around to this, but there was a happy ending to this, to that. And now the news that, a lifelong resident who is heavily invested in the community is now selling a couple of his businesses.
Where are you going with this?
Well, I guess my question is what What's your concern as a town official as to seeing turnover like this when it comes to business? Because business is important to the finances of a town.
Well, Peaceful Meadows is still an ice cream place. Richie isn't selling his place to somebody that's not going to do a good job. I'm positive of that.
You're positive.
So it's still going to be restaurants. It's not going to be McGuiggan's.
No.
It's going to be the Alibi. Is that what?
I think that's the pub, and then the patio.
Yeah.
If anybody's familiar with Martini's in Plymouth, the patio is going to become Martini's. The patio Martini's, which is a really, really nice restaurant. I think it's across from Memorial Hall down there.
Okay.
It's a very upscale. It's a very nice restaurant. I think that Kyle does not have anything to worry about, neither does the community, with respect to what we're going to.
Yeah, so that's going to stay the same.
I would say this, and I think the thing that...
I do miss Jubert's, though.
Right.
You know,
Sapplers. I mean, you talk about these are...
Oh, gee, Sapplers, I forgot.
You talk about businesses that have been here. They've been a staple of this community.
Can I go back?
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah, then you got the Toll House. I mean, but Wendy's is nice. But the Toll House was the Toll House.
I worked there, by the way.
Yeah. Did you? I used to stop by there for a coffee after work, you know, at Massasoit for years with my assistant. Would stop off at the Toll House. It was a place to go.
One of the things that I really want to do for the 150th, you know, we're doing a lot of events, which I'll announce. The kickoff night, rather than just talk about the history of the town, as a business person, someone who's lived here all my life, I want to talk about the history of the businesses that were the backbone of this community, such as a D.B. Gurney, the oldest business in Whitman.
Right.
It's 8th generation.
Wow.
Talk about McLaughlin Chevrolet, which I believe is the oldest Chevrolet dealership in the country, run by the original founding family, still existing.
Fantastic.
So I want to focus a lot on that particular kickoff night about the businesses that are the backbone of this community, that not just talk about the lumber that went to the Constitution or the there's a lot of history in this town that people don't know about. I mean, there's a lot of people that have no idea about Cardinal Spellman, which I thought was historically good in having the kickoff in that building. So, but I was just bringing up the whole business aspect of it.
The thing that I always enjoyed about you as a business owner, and about the things that when I frequent a restaurant or an establishment, is that it's, you know, it'll change occasionally, whether it's the menu, whether it's the entertainment, that there's always something that's being tweaked. While it might still have some of the same things, that there's always something that's being tinkered with just to make the establishment better. And I think that's one thing that I appreciate about any establishment that will do stuff like that. And yours is one of those businesses that has taken a lot of pride in doing that.
And as I've told you many times, you know, in our radio conversations, if you are not flexible and you're not willing to change, you're going to go out of business. And that's one of the reasons that we've been there. I mean, we literally changed our business model overnight when the pandemic came. Literally overnight. It's not easy.
No.
But we survived 15 years. And by the way, the way you preface that whole thing, you made it sound like I'm going someplace.
No, you're not.
I am not going someplace. Nor am I. The word is that I'm retiring. I am not retiring. I may semi-retire, and I'll still be around because I need a place to drink. I mean, eat. So I'll be around.
Okay. Anything you want to say in closing, Carl, in regards to whether it's the town and the state of the town financially, or local businesses like McGuiggan?
I probably do have to mention something about what's going on with the school committee these days. One of our members died, as you know, and another member has resigned. I don't know if it's official yet, because he has to see the town clerk and hand in a resignation paper. But there's 2 resignations, so there's 2 Whitman members whose spots are up, and we're going to be conducting interviews, I believe, on October 1st with people who would like to do it for a year, and then one of those people would have 2 years left on a term, and the other one would have 1 year left on a term. But that's going to be a big change that we have to take care of over the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Anything you want to say in closing, Richie?
I want to thank you for having me on your show tonight.
Well, again, Carl was the one who came up with the idea.
Yeah, I called Kevin and said, you know, this town is going through a major shift, and a guy who was given, from my point of view, is given more to this town than anybody that I know, is changing up a little bit, and going to get a little rest, which is good, and take care of grandchildren, which is even better.
I now have 3, which we went from 0
And I just thought it would be
Thank
nice to have Richie here.
Absolutely, and it's a great conversation. And again, we've all known each other for many years, and it's great to be able to have. I feel privileged to be able to have this conversation with both of you about things that are going on in this community. You're both 2 trusted voices. You know a lot of what's going on, and you are both key fabrics of this community.
Well, there's something else. It's one thing to have like trusted people. It's another thing to have a member of your group whom we can trust. I know that I can always talk to you, whether it's on television, whether it's on the radio, or whether it's just in the street, and know that things are going to be on the up and up. And I appreciate that, Kevin.
I agree, because I do have many conversations with him on the radio. I have a much better voice for radio than
he does. He does. But usually our conversations vary from talking about his restaurant, talking about things that are going on in the community.
Being beekeepers.
Being beekeepers, stuff like that.
Oh,
yeah.
beekeepers.
So get that in common too.
And my award-winning cable TV show.
Yeah.
So.
Well, gentlemen, that's all the time we have. I want to thank you very much. Maybe if there's more developments, maybe the 3 of us can get back together again, have
that'd be great.
More crosstalk.
I'll have plenty of time on my hands now.
I love it.
Yeah.
We want to thank you for tuning into a show like this, Crosstalk. If you have any ideas for the show or any ideas for a cable show, info@whca.tv. Till our next conversation, have a great day.